Hey everyone, welcome back. We are diving into some seriously interesting stuff today. We're breaking down 361 WAM Limited's latest quarterly results, their Q2 FY25 report. And there's a lot to unpack here. Whether you're, knee-deep in the world of finance every day or just curious about what makes these global players tick, I think you're going to find this fascinating. So, expert speaker, are you ready to kind of roll up our sleeves and get our hands a little dirty with this report?
Absolutely. Let's dive in and see what we can uncover.
Okay, perfect. So right off the bat, 361 WAM, they're reporting some really impressive profit growth this quarter. We're talking a 33.4% year-over-year surge. That's their profit after tax, or PAT, clocking in at a cool Rs 24/7 crore. Now, I don't know about you, but when I see those kinds of numbers, it definitely makes me want to learn more.
Yeah, it's definitely an attention-grabbing figure. I mean, for anyone who's been following 361 WAM, this kind of jumped in profitability, it really signals that they've got their act together.
Yeah.
Strong operational efficiency, smart management, that kind of thing. It makes you think they know how to navigate whatever the economy throws their way.
Exactly. And to really get a grip on how they're pulling this off, we need to break down their business a little bit. So 361 WAM, they've got two main branches, wealth management and asset management. Wealth management, that's where they're crafting these personalized investment strategies for, high net worth individuals. And then there's asset management, where they're managing those larger investment funds. But one of the things that really stood out to me in this report was their annual recurring revenue, or ARR. It's up by a massive 40.6% year over year. Now, that's not just a one-time lucky break. That, to me, says they figured out how to build a revenue stream that's, predictable and keeps growing. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that kind of ARR growth, that's a really big deal, especially in this industry. It shows they're not just attracting clients, but they're keeping them around, building those long-term relationships, which is huge for investors.
For sure. It's like they're building a fortress of recurring revenue, brick by brick. And speaking of clients, 361 WAM, they've been busy. They announced they brought on over 160 new high-value clients just this quarter. That's a lot of trust to put in one company. What do you make of that, especially in such a, competitive field?
Oh, it's absolutely essential. It's not just about the numbers. Bringing in this many high-profile clients, it really elevates their reputation. It builds their brand, makes them synonymous with expertise, exclusivity. It tells the market that they're the ones to watch.
Totally. It's like they're becoming this magnet for serious money.
Hmm.
And that kind of momentum is really hard to beat, especially in finance. And it's not even just about attracting those new clients. It's what those clients represent, right?
Yeah.
We're talking about a rapidly growing pool of assets under management, or AUM.
Exactly. AUM, that's a key metric in this industry. It's directly tied to a firm's revenue potential. So this growth trajectory, both in clients and AUM, it paints a very, very promising picture for 361 WAM's earnings in the future. It's like they're building this, I don't know, this luxury liner, and every new high net worth client is another suite booked on that ship. And that ship, it's sailing straight towards, profitability bay. But hey, let's shift gears for a sec. Let's go a little deeper, look past just the raw numbers. There's some really intriguing details buried in this report that I think you're going to find pretty interesting.
Okay, yeah, I'm all about uncovering those hidden gems.
Mhm.
What did you find?
So remember how they mentioned that big investment they snagged from that unnamed marquee global investor?
Oh, yeah. How could I forget that? It's not exactly every day that a company just casually drops that they raised, what was it, almost $350 million from a single investor.
Yeah.
And then they don't even tell us who it is. It's like a financial cliffhanger or something.
Right. And that's exactly why it's such a big deal. This isn't just some silent partner we're talking about here. This is
Yeah.
a major player, could be a global investment firm, maybe even a sovereign wealth fund. The point is, someone with very deep pockets just made a huge bet on 361 WAM's future. That's a pretty strong vote of confidence, don't you think?
It's like they shined a giant spotlight on them saying, hey, everyone, check out this company. They're going places. Okay, while we're talking about interesting tidbits, what was that whole completing the flywheel thing in their investor presentation? It sounds a little, I don't know, buzzwordy.
Yeah, it does sound like something you'd hear in a business school lecture, but it's actually a pretty important concept to understand. Basically, the flywheel effect, it's all about how momentum builds in a successful business. Imagine a giant flywheel, right? At first, it takes a ton of effort just to get it to budge, but every push, every successful rotation, it builds on the last one and becomes easier and easier to keep that thing spinning. Eventually, it's almost effortless.
Okay, I see where you're going with this. So for 361 WAM, Every new high-value client they bring in, every successful investment strategy, every partnership they make, it's like another push on that flywheel, making it harder and harder for anyone to slow them down.
Exactly. And this report, with its, impressive financials, the strategic moves they're making, it all suggests that 361 WAM is being very deliberate, very smart about completing their flywheel. They're not just chasing those quick wins, they're building something designed for long-term growth and profitability.
It's a pretty powerful idea, and I think anyone who's, interested in business or investing would do well to really wrap their head around it. But speaking of important ideas, let's talk about what Khan Bhagat, the CEO, had to say in this report. He kept emphasizing things like client trust, expert advisors, innovative products. Those all sound like, well, kind of like standard corporate buzzwords. Is there really anything more to them, or is it just PR talk?
I actually think he's tapping into some really important trends that are shaping the entire wealth and asset management industry and not just, 361 WAM specifically.
Okay, now you've got me really curious. Tell me more.
Let's start with client trust. In a world where markets are constantly changing and there's this underlying current of economic uncertainty, trust is more important than ever. Clients, especially those with, a lot of wealth, they need to know that their money is in good hands, right? That the people managing it are not only competent, but ethical and dependable. Trust is the foundation. Everything else is built on that.
Yeah, I mean, it makes perfect sense. If I'm going to trust someone with my life savings, I want to be sure they're not going to just disappear with it, right?
Exactly. And that's where those expert advisors come in. It's not enough anymore to just offer a bunch of investment options and say, good luck. Clients, especially the high net worth ones, they want that personalized guidance. They want tailored strategies, a dedicated team who really gets their financial goals and helps them navigate the complexities of the market.
So it's less about like transactions and more about building those long-term relationships.
Exactly. And finally, those innovative products you mentioned. Finance, it's not a static industry, right? It's constantly evolving. So to stay competitive, 361 WAM and really anyone in the space, they have to offer something more than just the traditional investment options. Think alternative investments, structured products, even dipping their toes into things like digital assets. It's about catering to a more sophisticated clientele who are always looking for the next big thing.
So they're not just like managing money, right? It's more like they're managing expectations, trying to stay one step ahead in a world that's constantly changing.
Exactly. And that brings up a really important point, which is that, well, context is everything. This report, it paints a very optimistic picture of 361 WAM, but it also raises some questions like, what's the bigger picture here? What's happening in the rest of the industry, in India specifically? Are there any, I don't know, potential threats out there, things that could derail their success?
It's like we're admiring this like really impressive ship, but we haven't even looked to see what the waters are like, right? So where do we even start with those
Yeah,
questions?
that's where our deep dive, it has to go beyond just this one report. To really understand where 361 WEM might be headed, we have to look at the competitive landscape in India. Who are their biggest competitors? How much of the market do they actually control? Are there any, new players, disruptors trying to shake things up?
Yeah, it's like that old saying, know your enemy and know yourself, right?
Right.
We have to understand the whole playing field to know if 361 WAM is really in a position to win long term. What else should we be thinking about here?
Well, macroeconomic environment is a big one. I mean, the Indian economy is doing very well right now, but there are always potential problems. Things like rising interest rates, global instability, those things could have a real impact on 361 WAM, even if they're doing everything right internally.
So we've like zoomed in on this one company, but now we need to zoom back out and look at the whole ecosystem they're operating in.
Exactly. And that's, I think, what makes these deep dives so interesting. It's not just about looking at numbers on a page, it's about connecting the dots, right? Finding those hidden trends and understanding the bigger story.
Absolutely. Well, there you have it, everyone. That was your deep dive into 361 WAM Limited's Q2 performance. We talked about their financials, their strategic moves, even got a glimpse into the future of wealth and asset management in India. Remember, it's not enough to just look at the numbers. You have to understand what those numbers mean.
And maybe even more importantly, you have to keep asking questions, the questions that go beyond any single report, because those are the questions that lead to a deeper understanding of how business and finance, really, how the whole world works.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Right.
So next time you come across a financial report, don't just skim the headlines. Take a deep dive. Ask the tough questions. See what you can uncover. Until next time, stay curious.